why don't we, Dan Pryor, why don't we ask you as the head of M&A for an acquisitive company, where you see some of the bright spots either in countries or regions?
Well, I think it's an interesting question. I mean, we have deals going on literally on every continent right now except for Antarctica. So I wouldn't say that there are any particular bright spots I'd single out. I think what I'd say is that the nature of the deals really differs depending on where we're looking. If we're looking in emerging markets, it's really more of a channel play. If we're looking in Europe, it's really more of a brand play. You're buying an established brand and to fold that in. So what we're trying to accomplish and the way we're going to think about the value is going to differ greatly based on where we're looking. But I'm not sure I would single out any single part of the world as a bright spot.
Peter Wexler, why don't we turn to you? I know that, I believe your CEO has even moved to China from Paris this year. So that alone signals an emphasis on China. Could I ask you, in terms of China and maybe some of the other emerging markets, what are you seeing in terms of the trend?
Well, emerging markets accounts for a huge portion of our revenues, and we're very opportunistic in those places. I mean, one of the questions people ask all the time is, what do you see with, we did 7 deals in China over the last 15 months. But likewise, we're seeing the same thing with the Chinese coming out and into Europe and into the US and either joint venturing or buying stakes, or even approaching companies like ours saying, how can we partner with you? How can we joint venture with you? So you see it both ways, people trying to get into China and continue to expand in China, but also the Chinese and let's not forget other large economies like India that have cash in certain areas, and they're investing heavily in Europe, heavily in the US, buying assets and buying their way into markets. So it goes both ways too. And I think it underscores, from what you point about our CEO, the relative importance of the entire region, including China, to the health of any global enterprise.
Peter, with your company's presence now in China, even more firmly established since last fall, yeah. Are you being approached by Chinese companies looking to do outbound transactions and perhaps to partner with an established company like Schneider in any particular regions, doing joint ventures?
Absolutely, and that's kind of, if I didn't articulate it good enough, that's what's happening. And it's not just happening with us. I mean, it happens with our competitors. It happens with other industries too. We hear about it. We talk to other people and see what's going on. And you can see it relative in the other markets, acquiring things in the Eastern European countries where there's a lot of still pent-up demand and opportunity. I think Charlie said a very good word. It's opportunistic. People are looking at values. And I think it's you see it a lot, and you're going to see it accelerate more.
Mm-hmm. So we're actually also seeing it, Paul, with some of our private equity funds, like pure Chinese private equity funds. We're increasingly talking about how they can do a deal in Paris or Germany, and set up offshore funds to invest outside of China, mm-hmm. which is completely opposite to the flow we were watching.
I just wanted to comment a little bit on some of the trends that we are beginning to see in cross-border M&A, driven by transnational factors. David, MAC clauses dealing with the potential collapse, the partial collapse of the euro. Are you beginning to see that built into transaction agreements?
We are. I mean, in the UK, MAC clauses tend to be less common anyway. But where we've had them recently, yes, either people have specifically put in that it's a MAC if the euro collapses, or more commonly, they've carved out the fact that euro will collapse, or that particular jurisdictions, particular countries drop out of the euro.
Yeah, on the theory that is a macro event that, just as in the U.S. practice, we've now got a litany of 5 or 6 or sometimes even 8 or 9 or 10 carve-outs to the MAC definition. We're seeing in the European practice this potential euro event being carved out as well.
Yeah, I mean, people, I think the feeling is that the euro is certainly going to survive short to medium term. I think there's, I'm not the most, well, anyone who can tell you whether it's going to survive long term is probably cleverer than I am, but they're certainly being built in, yeah.
Yeah, well, from a pound-based economy, you represent the other end of that, end of that spectrum.